A group of kids in Phoenix share some holiday kindness. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
The red caps were the only clue. The only hint that something Christmas was afoot.
Here we go.
Something that would soon strike straight to the heart.
Are you guys serious?
As we first reported last year, the kids responsible for these moments of joy are students and former students of Derek Brown.
Also, lights, please.
A Phoenix elementary teacher who uses our on-the-road stories to teach kindness and character. A perennial favorite,
Merry Christmas.
Secret Santa. That wealthy businessman who every year gives out hundreds of $100 bills to random strangers.
I was like shocked because, well, who does that?
I've never seen anyone like just give money away like that.
Could you imagine that someday it would be you?
No, not ever.
And so, with guidance from Mr. Brown,
I sent everybody an itinerary.
the kids started a Secret Santa club and began fundraising, calling friends, family, and businesses. They raised $8,000 without any help from their school or district, just so they could turn around and give it all away.
It's okay.
To people like Rosemarie Hernandez. Rosemarie had been out of work for a week.
You will give me a lot of relief. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys. Oh my God.
You get so many feelings in your body that just makes you like want to do it again.
Which is why, a few weeks ago, they did it again. This time with even more students, handing out even more money.
Oh my God.
They gave out $10,000 this season, but received something priceless.
Their joy, that's the gift to you.
Exactly the realization Mr. Brown was hoping for.
I want this memory to be so strong that it now drives them every day in everything they do.
Did today change you?
Definitely. I never felt this way in my life. So this was really a life changer for me.
Whoever said money can't buy happiness, obviously, never gave it away. Steve Hartman, on the road in Phoenix.
God bless you too.
Tonight, we continue a CBS Evening News holiday tradition 19 years running. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road with a special visit from a Secret Santa.
Some people were skeptical at first of the stranger who rolled into flood-ravaged Avery County, North Carolina this week, claiming to be some kind of Santa.
You don't have a beard.
No.
Where's your reindeer?
Reindeer?
Yet he persisted,
You live around here?
approaching people in parking lots and gas stations, and even motel rooms where those displaced by Hurricane Helene are still sheltering
How are you?
3 months after the storm.
You probably don't know me.
No.
How could she? He is Secret Santa.
Why did you want to come here? I think when people go through tragedy, they can lose their house, all their belongings. But what they can't lose is hope. And maybe we can give a little hope. 300 Secret Santa dollars.
Oh my gosh.
Every year, around the holidays,
I need this so bad.
Did that help?
this anonymous wealthy businessman travels the country.
You're welcome.
He gives away about $100,000 worth of $100 bills to both random strangers
Are you kidding?
and people he seeks out, knowing their need.
400 of these Secret Santa dollars.
Thank you.
Jamie Gwynn was living here with his wife Melissa when a mudslide ripped the garage off their house.
I grabbed a hold of her and I said, well, at least we got each other. We can fix the house. And it couldn't have been 10 minutes either. And I remember just getting crushed.
A second mudslide took the whole house and Melissa.
You haven't really lost her, because she's with you. And she's smiling down on you right now.
And it's those words of comfort, the hugs,
God bless you.
and the hope that really seem to move people, much more than the money itself.
That's the gift. That's the gift, that you haven't been forgotten about, that we do know you're there, and we do care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Secret Santa always says that kindness is the bridge between all people, A bridge that can't be burned, bombed, or washed away in a flood. Always there, just waiting for us to cross.
Maybe just make your Christmas just a little bit better.
Steve Hartman, on the road, in Avery County, North Carolina.
Merry Christmas.
We end tonight with the story of a star rookie in the NFL and his brotherly bond with someone who provided steady guidance when he needed it most. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
Number 22, Buffalo Bills rookie running back sensation Ray Davis took to the field Sunday and made a beeline for this man.
How you doing, baby?
Patrick Dowley.
Yeah.
A man so near and dear to Ray
Turn it that way.
that for this game, on his cleats, he wore a picture taken the day it all began.
Do you remember the first time you met Ray?
I do. He looked right at me and he pointed. He said, "Are you Patrick?" I said, "Yes, I am." He's like, "Man, you don't even know how long I've been waiting to meet you."
In 2007, Ray was 8 years old and in San Francisco's Tenderloin district when he saw a flyer for the Big Brothers Big Sisters program.
Were you actually homeless?
At times, yeah.
Ray says his parents were in and out of his life, and he was craving stability. So he signed up for a Big Brother.
I just needed love, man. I needed consistency. I needed somebody who was going to be there and teach me, right from wrong.
And that person was Patrick.
Yeah. That will forever be my big brother.
They spent countless Sundays together, from those early Pop Warner football games through Patrick's wedding. Ray became like part of the family. And although he has always been grateful, until this week, Ray hadn't been in a position to show his gratitude quite like this.
This is it. This is the moment. And that's something that I wanted to give back to him.
The team honored Patrick during the pregame. And later, Ray even scored a touchdown for his big.
Davis to the end zone!
The cherry on top of all those Sundays.
To all the people out there that have ever considered doing it, it's not that difficult, Don't overthink what it takes to make a difference in a kid's life.
And he says don't underestimate the effect you can have.
I love you, dude.
Steve Hartman, on the road in Buffalo.
We end the week with a story about the power of unlocked kindness. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
Cheryl Johnson.
Can you get the cream?
And her TNT sportscaster husband, Ernie.
Which one's the cream, Cheryl?
Say they've had a blessed life, due in no small part to a decision they made back in 1991.
Thank you.
That's when the Johnsons adopted this little boy from a Romanian orphanage and brought him home to Atlanta. Michael had Duchenne muscular dystrophy, an incurable disease. He also developed a rare, feverish passion for car keys and key fobs.
He would hold them in his lap, and he would just want different ones on different days. And when he got sicker and he got on the ventilator, he even talked about the car that Jesus drives. And if you need to know, Jesus drives a red Silverado.
At the age of 33, Michael left in that bright red Chevy, leaving his parents along the side of the road, clutching photos and that extensive collection, which they have cherished.
And I know it's not him, but he held them, he loved them.
Yeah, because I have to have that memory.
Which is why Ernie and Cheryl plan to hold on to that quirky collection forever. Until last month, on the 3rd anniversary of Michael's death, when Cheryl saw a Facebook post. The message was from another mom in the neighborhood looking for car keys and key fobs for her son, who loves to collect.
Hi-yo!
This is that boy.
I'm Cooper.
I'm Steve. Nice to meet you.
6-year-old Cooper Kivett has a developmental disorder called Williams syndrome and about a couple dozen key fobs.
There's something special to him.
Because that's just something you can't go to the store and buy.
Parents, John and Brittany, were hoping for 1 or 2 fobs for Cooper's birthday, but that's not what they got.
I just couldn't even believe it.
Michael's collection that was so near and dear to his parents suddenly didn't feel like it belonged to them at all.
I know this is Michael wanting Cooper to have them.
Cooper?
How about that?
Whoa.
There's no right way to mourn a child.
Wow.
But for the Johnsons, giving to others is key. Steve Hartman.
Thank you so much.
On the road, near Atlanta.
Finally tonight, buckle up for the trip of a lifetime down memory lane. Here's Steve Hartman on the road.
This was cool.
For Earl Goines and his son Jared, cars have always been their love language.
69 Z28.
Bonding over Bondo and brake pads ever since Jared was a little compact. And through the years, the one thing they've talked about most is the 67 Chevy Camaro Earl used to own.
Anytime that we saw a Camaro, he would definitely bring it up. It'd be a reoccurring theme and a reoccurring story.
I once had a Camaro.
Yes, I had a Camaro.
Beautiful.
Just like that. The joke was, or the way that he just summed it all up, is that I had to sell this car for your diaper money.
Actually, Earl was only half joking.
You got to build a nursery, find a crib and a cradle, and it was time to, settle down and raise the family,
So it was goodbye hot rod, hello lukewarm minivan. Since then, his car dreams have been mostly confined to helping others with their vehicles.
So it's a Nissan Rogue.
He works at O'Reilly Auto Parts in Mesquite, Texas, where he has continued to share that story of the Camaro that got away.
Thanks so much.
Of course, Jared knew his dad never really regretted selling that car, but he still felt like he owed his dad more than he could ever repay. So he went to work. A car exactly like the one his dad had just didn't exist. So Jared spent 3 years scouring the internet for parts and putting it together piece by piece. Until last month, when he handed over the keys for his dad's 65th birthday.
That is your car. Thanks for the diaper money, Dad.
And he was just overcome. And he wrapped his arms around me. It was the best. It was the best.
He loves me a lot. As much as I love him.
We all give up something to start a family. But if you're lucky and patient, sometimes you can have your Camaro and keep it too. Steve Hartman, on the road in Mesquite, Texas.
Veterans Day is Monday. Tonight we end the week with a salute to a fallen hero of World War II. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
Being out like that.
Before she was even born,
This is him?
That's my dad.
Jerry Eisenhower's dad, Army Private William Walters, got shipped off to World War II. All the family got back was his body and a letter that said he died somewhere in France.
That's it?
That's it. I just always wondered where he died, how he died. It was just a little part of a puzzle piece that was missing in my life.
She just didn't have any stories about her dad.
Jan Moore is Jerry's daughter.
Was the family resigned to the fact that you would never know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Until a few months ago. Jerry was at her home in Syracuse, Nebraska, when she got a message. It was from a small village in France, and it read, in part, "On the occasion of the 80th anniversary of the liberation of France, we pay tribute to Private William Walters."
We were looking for our soldier. We did not know that he was their soldier too.
In August 1944, American troops began liberating the village of Grace-sur-Loing. It was a joyous day, but there was one casualty. While crossing the river into town, Private Walters' boat capsized and he drowned at the age of 20. This past summer, an historian from Grace-sur-Loing tracked down Walters' family and invited them to France to honor their shared hero and the sacrifice he made here. As one eyewitness explained, they went looking for him and found him. They did a lot of things to try to revive him, but it didn't work.
He showed me where they laid him.
He was here.
And they covered him with flowers. It's just amazing, the care that they gave him.
This week, she returned to her father's grave.
First time I've been here and had the answers.
Jerry says she now feels at peace.
It's a good feeling.
And it's all thanks to the grateful people of France, who even 80 years on still see America through the prism of our better angels. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Syracuse, Nebraska.
We end the week unleashing a joyful celebration of autumn. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
In our increasingly outraged America, even the lowly leaf is subject to controversy. Folks upset about the raking and the bagging.
Leave the leaves! They're just going to make the soil richer.
Mad about the blowing and the scooping.
It's just noise and leaf blowers, and I can't handle it.
Even just vacationing to look at them angers some peeps.
I hope you stub your toe really hard.
But there is at least one place left in America where pure autumn joy can still be found. It appears annually in Jody Hartman's front yard in Freeport, Maine, after he piles up his leaves and gives his dog the green light. Stella the yellow lab. Everything fall should be.
She kind of likes the feeling of it, I think, the sound maybe.
I made you something.
It's just her little comfort zone.
Stella started doing this about 9 years ago. A few years later, their other dog, Mabel, caught the fever. Today, their videos are extremely popular on social media, which is why Jody goes to great lengths to make sure his leaf pile lasts as long as possible.
I was out in the yard with a hairdryer trying to dry them out. I have to cover them with my new roof. Just leaf maintenance all the time.
Do you have to tell the kids, no, these aren't for you, these are for the dog?
I have kept the kids out of the leaf pile before.
Hold on, guys, don't wreck it. You know, some people believe kids are more important than dogs.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'll try to remember that.
But until then, the pooches will remain the priority, because he says we all really need this.
I think in a world where there's so much noise, and especially on social media, it just doesn't get much more simple and wholesome than a dog just running and jumping in the leaves.
Especially, he says, when this happens.
Just her tail wagging outside the leaves is something about it.
That little periscope of hope popping out of the chaos. A reminder that joy is still out there if you just take the leap. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Freeport, Maine.
We end tonight with a story about the many rewards of kindness and acceptance. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman, On the Road.
At Clemson University in South Carolina.
Good morning, guys.
The Clemson Life program gives students with intellectual disabilities a chance to learn life skills for independent living.
So we are going to do grocery shopping today.
But as much as the program offers, Junior Charlie McGee wanted the whole college experience, from Alpha to Omega.
Why did you want to join a fraternity?
To have a great time and experiencing that brotherhood and more joy.
Unfortunately, rushing a fraternity is a process. There are interviews and mixers, and even then there's no guarantee of acceptance. In fact, no fraternity here had ever taken a kid from the Clemson Life program. Until now. And when Charlie found out he got a bid, he was so excited he ran out of his left shoe and into the loving arms of his new fraternity brothers at Pi Kappa Alpha.
We saw him run towards us and we just lost it. And then after that, it was just raw emotion of all of us just taking him in.
That was one of the coolest moments at Clemson that we've had, was seeing that right there, so.
The guys told me at first, some of the members doubted a person with Down syndrome could fit in with the group, but they were willing to do Charlie the favor. Only to learn later that Charlie was the one doing them the favor.
The joy and light that we were missing in our chapter that we didn't know we were missing from the beginning is unreal.
He kind of broke all the preconceived notions that I thought of that a fraternity man should be like.
Others have come to the same conclusion. This year, a total of 6 fraternities and 5 sororities all welcome students from Clemson Life. And according to Charlie, it will be a game changer. Because he says something magical happens whenever you're accepted this fully.
My disability, it doesn't really exist.
When you're with your fraternity brothers, you feel like your disability doesn't exist?
Yes, sir.
Now that's a rush. Steve Hartman on the road in Clemson, South Carolina.
Tonight, the story of a school worker who's being honored for doing so many little things that make a big difference. CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road.
When folks in Swedberg, Missouri decided to name their elementary school building, everyone knew it had to be named after someone truly special.
You have your name on a building, that's huge.
It has to be someone that you just know would be right.
That makes you think of when you think of good.
Throughout history, there have been many national figures who fit that bill. Also, lots of famous Missourians who would have been great choices to celebrate and inspire. But in the end, they went with Claudine Wilson. Who is that, you ask? You wouldn't believe. Meet school custodian Claudine Wilson.
You can get her like a vacuum and she'll appreciate it because she really likes cleaning.
Yeah, she's like in the zone. She focuses.
And she's just really dedicated herself to this school.
So much so that over the past 30 years, she has taken on a busload of additional responsibilities.
Morning.
From transportation coordination.
How are you guys today?
To lunch duty, to landscaping. From facility operations to fill-in operator.
Swedberg School, janitor speaking. Can I help you? And the next thing I know, I was leaving at 6 in the morning and getting home about 7:30 at night.
And what's your motivation for doing all that?
The kids at your heart.
That's what makes Claudine what she is.
School board president Chuck Boren.
These kids get sick. You think they go to the nurse to start with? They go to her. If they had a bad night, they go to her. I mean, and she's there for each and every one of them.
And all that is why the school board voted unanimously for the new name. And why today, there's really only one person in this whole community who remains unconvinced that Claudine deserves this honor. Claudine.
It touches your heart, but I don't think my name needs to be up on a building somewhere.
So we'll add humility to one of the reasons why you should be up there.
In America, building names often inspire greatness.
You done a good job this morning.
And Swedberg, Missouri is no exception. They just define greatness a little differently.
Would you want to be like her?
Yeah.
That's what everybody should want to be, you know? That's what I would want to be.
Steve Hartman on the road in Swedberg, Missouri.
Tonight, Steve Hartman is on the road with a super dedicated sports fan who's in a league of his own.
Let's go! Fight! Sequence fight! Win!
We came to Antioch Community High School near Chicago to meet the record holder, the undisputed champion of showing up. As we first reported a couple years ago, then 91-year-old superfan Steve Young hadn't missed a single Antioch football game since 1946. Not that there hadn't been close calls, like the summer he got in a traffic accident in a thunderstorm.
I had 11 broken bones, punctured left lung, and while I was laying on a stretcher, I got hit by lightning, knocked me off the stretcher.
Wait. You got hit by lightning while you're on the stretcher?
On the stretcher. They got me in the hospital, and the one doctor said, he's not going to make it. And I said, you guys don't know what you're talking about. I said, I've got a game to go
to. And sure enough, a few weeks later, he was at the season opener.
But it's not just football. Steve has also been to virtually every basketball game, softball game, and volleyball match. He goes to tennis matches, golf matches, and even bowling tournaments. He is omnipresent at more than 20 sports, plus plays in concerts.
We talked to students and former students across 3 generations.
He was at our games, no matter what.
Rain or shine.
Home or away.
Every single one. He's always there.
For some athletes, it's maybe the only person that they have at the game, so.
Steve says that's true. Kids have told him so.
I've had kids come up and say, my parents never show up for anything.
What's that like to hear?
It kind of hits home.
And it's a big reason why he does it. After we first told this story, Steve got inducted into the Antioch High School Hall of Fame as a super fan. And of course, he still goes to games. Now 93 years old and as ever present as ever, with no plans to stay home anytime soon.
You know, you're not going to live forever. You're going to miss a game.
Who says?
Steve Hartman on the road in Antioch, Illinois.
Tonight we bring you the story of one family trapped in the path of Hurricane Helene. Their land was their livelihood, a campground, but the memories will never be washed away. CBS's Steve Hartman is on the road.
At the Mountain River Family Campground in western North Carolina, the river isn't the only thing that gushes. Visitors do too.
And it's beautiful because you're kind of nestled in a valley at this campground. It's a whole sense of community.
So friendly and open. There's just another place like it.
There was no other place like it. This week, the remnants of Hurricane Helene turned this slice of heaven into a hellscape.
Oh, God.
Suzanne Garland's family owns the campground. First time back, she couldn't believe her eyes. Every building, every bit of infrastructure erased.
It was total shock.
Standing by her side, her husband, Jared.
Yeah, because it's just mud, trees, and...
It just looks like a tornado. Just ripped everything up and spit it back out.
Like many ravaged by this storm, the Garlands' first inclination was to move. But then, like many, they saw the sunrise, and the morning light worked its magic.
It was like a little reminder that, like, in all the darkness, the light will always find a way to push through.
And I just knew right then and there that we couldn't walk away from it.
And the day was about to get brighter still. On their website, old customers and total strangers began reserving campsites, commenting, "I know we can't come, just booking a night to help out." Dozens did this, paid for vacations they cannot take.
And I just feel like we're so strong, and I know that we'll make it. I don't know, it just warms your heart.
Like a Carolina sunrise. Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
Some neighbors have a bone to pick about the Halloween display you're about to see, but for at least one person, it has special meaning. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
Make no bones about it. Bill Pyle's front yard has bones all about it. But to him, the scariest thing out here is his mailbox, which every year curses him with hate mail.
This is a side of Halloween decorations I never knew existed. There are people that complain about them?
Yes, worshiping the devil, you're going to hell, you're glorifying death, yeah.
Which is why he was already thinking about scaling back the display when the last note arrived earlier this month.
I stopped dead in my tracks in the driveway looking at that letter.
Tammy Wyhe wrote that note.
Yeah.
Tammy has breast cancer, and to get her daily radiation treatments, she had to travel this country road in Oxford, Ohio, right past Bill's house. Given her situation, it's understandable how this diorama of death could be unsettling. But the tone of her letter was more humorous than sternum. Tammy wrote, "The Bone family and what they are up to is a highlight of my journey." She went on to explain how her last day of cancer treatment was coming up and how grateful she was for this daily diversion. And when Bill read that,
Tears came to my eyes, really touched my heart.
And right then, he knew what he had to do.
Another skeleton.
He worked through the night so that when that letter writer made her final trip past his house in the morning, this is what she saw. A whole skeleton crew cheering her on.
It was very touching to think that somebody would go to that effort for a stranger.
Former stranger.
Good seeing you again. We talk all the time now. You want to take a walk out and see these guys?
Yeah.
Bill says Tammy's letter and now friendship have completely negated all the hate mail, inspiring him to not only keep his display, but to grow it.
Things are going to stay up and they're going to stay active.
All year round?
All year round.
There's more letters to come.
There will be.
Steve Hartman.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
On the road in Oxford, Ohio.
CBS's Steve Hartman's on the road tonight, putting a bow on the week with a story of a very special gift.
It hit him out of the blue. Francis Aproku, custodian at James Madison High School in Vienna, Virginia, says he was walking through a parking lot earlier this month when he saw something that literally brought him to his knees.
My leg started shaking. I can't stand. I was panicking, and I have to get myself on the floor, and I was crying.
You were crying?
Yeah.
Hey guys, get him up. He's okay.
Laid out, flat on the pavement, crying, tears of joy. The trail of these happy tears starts here with a group of sophomore football players. The boys used to chat with Francis outside their weight room.
These are my people.
Eventually, those conversations led to friendships.
God bless you guys all.
With students like Bennett Hishman, Nick Tiberthopoulos, and Logan Georgeless.
He's always just such a nice person. If we were to have a bad day, he'd be the first guy. I'd be like, oh, hey, are you okay, you know? And we're like, I mean, let's do something nice for him. No one else is going to.
And that's when they asked Francis, if you could have one splurge, what would you buy?
I said, what? Why do you want to know?
Did you answer their question?
Yeah.
What'd you tell them?
I told them that my heart desire is a Jeep Wrangler.
A Jeep Wrangler?
Yes. That's why I'm trying to work hard.
Francis sends money to his relatives in Ghana. He's squeezed for cash. Getting that car was nothing but a pipe dream. So the boys started a fundraising campaign. All on their own they did this. And within just 4 months, they'd raised $22,000. Enough for a nice 2015 Jeep Wrangler. Francis was so surprised to see those wheels, he started rolling.
That's your car, man. That's your car. That's your car.
It got a little to the point where it was like, is he okay? Making sure he's okay, and we helped him up.
And then we finally got him in the car, and he's just in disbelief.
It was incredible.
I will never, ever forget today.
Not because of the car, he says, but because of the kids.
I can't believe this in America. Only America.
Only in America.
America is a great country. May God bless America.
And God bless the Jeep Wrangler.
Exactly, you got it.
Steve Hartman on the road in Vienna, Virginia.
Finally tonight, the measure of a true friend is someone you can count on even at your lowest moment. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
You may not recognize him out of costume, but this is David Hobbs. 5 years ago, back in his hometown of Clarksdale, Mississippi, David was arrested in this alley for breaking into a backyard shed. He was dressed as Captain America. So, of course, the next day, pictures of the handcuffed superhero went viral. Cable networks and newspapers around the world made him into their laughingstock.
I truly felt as if my life was over. All these people were talking about me, making fun of me, and I'm like, man, what an embarrassment I am to my family.
Aside from family, David says one of the few not laughing was childhood friend Trey Lewis.
After I got my mind around the details of it, I mean, it was just sadness. I mean, obviously this is drug induced.
He was right about that. David had been an addict his entire adult life. Fortunately, His old friend Trey, who he hadn't seen in 20 years, now owned Good Landing Recovery, a treatment program based in Decula, Georgia.
I came here with a suitcase full of dirty clothes and a half a cigarette. That's all I had when I got to rehab, bro.
Trey let him go through the program for free.
And I'll have 5 years clean, you know?
Which is why David now looks back at that infamous picture fondly. The worst day of his life. Now, his best.
Yeah, what was meant to destroy me actually was the stepping stone to rebuilding me.
Is there a lesson in that?
I think so. If you still have breath in your lungs and you're still alive, there's a chance. You can turn it around. Oh, man.
And you can help turn it around for others.
First treatment, man.
Okay, get it, baby.
Today, David works at Good Landing.
Bro, you're doing amazing, bro.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
How many people do you think he's helped?
Hundreds.
Wow. Really?
I mean, that's conservative. By this time next year, probably thousands.
David Hobbs.
All those things matter.
Superhero, after all. Steve Hartman, on the road in Decula, Georgia.
Finally tonight, you never know what event or person will change your life. CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for a story about a warning that turned into a blessing.
When those blue lights appeared in her rear view, then 20-year-old Abby Rutledge knew she'd done the wrong thing at the wrong place and time. But now, 2 years later, she sees that run-in differently.
I think it was the right person, right time, and the right words said.
The cop who pulled her over for speeding that day was Alabama State Trooper J.T. Brown. Abby told Trooper Brown she couldn't afford a ticket, that she was broke and in a dead-end job.
And I told her, I said, well, how about we talk about it then?
It went on for about 10, 15 minutes, just talking about different career paths.
You be safe.
Their conclusion? That Abby would make a really good nurse. So, Brown gave her a warning. On this one condition, promise me you'll go to scrub or nursing school and slow down, and I won't give you a ticket.
Could you have ever imagined that she would take it as seriously as she did?
Never.
As soon as he left and as soon as I got to where I was going, I started pushing myself toward that career, and now I'm here.
And now she's here, working as a surgical technician at the University of Alabama Birmingham Hospital. Abby says she loves her new job and gives full credit to Trooper Brown, who was at her graduation.
I wanted him to see the impression he made on me. 5 minutes talking to anybody, even if you don't know them, can make the largest impact of their life ever.
And you never know when.
You never know when it could happen, no.
Trooper Brown went above and beyond license and registration to guidance and motivation.
Still got this.
And by taking the advice written on that warning, Abby not only helped herself, she returned the exact same favor.
She made my entire career worth it.
Steve Hartman.
She did.
On the road.
I'm proud of you.
In Birmingham, Alabama.
One of the marvels of being a parent is watching how quickly your children grow. CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with one family to see how they handled an important milestone. Those are big muscles.
The Bishop family of Festus, Missouri can smile now, but a few months ago the mood was much more somber as Courtney, Jake, and their daughter Hazel said goodbye to a very important member of the family.
We had been trying to wean her off of it for some time.
Hazel's beloved pacifier, affectionately known as Passy, had been with her for years. And Jake knew saying goodbye could come with tears and tantrums. So he searched for creative approaches to ease the transition, like cutting off the end,
broken,
soaking it in vinegar,
you got to cover them up so they can grow,
or planting it in a pot.
I did it a little bit differently.
A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit differently.
No, a lot of it differently.
Okay, it's a lot.
We are gathered here to remember Pass, the pacifier bishop, one of the greatest passies to have ever graced the lips of a toddler.
Jake gave Passy a full-on funeral.
May I have Hazel and the passy?
Of course, before the internet, parents used to just take the thing away and deal with the tantrum. But today, young parents like Jake, for better or worse, would rather not go to war over a binky. They're pacifists, if you will.
You need them to go through some tough times to really grow as a person, but you don't need to make extra tough times for them. They'll have plenty of those coming up.
Put the dirt on top of the passy. Yep.
Parents delight in marking milestones, but those milestones are often bittersweet. Because each turning point is a point of no return.
She's transitioning to the next stage of her life. We just got to hold on to those moments and those memories, and this is why we do this stuff. It gives us these memories to look back on, because it goes fast.
How do you feel?
I want to do it again, please.
Hazel hasn't asked for it again since. Although shortly after the ceremony, Jake dug it up and buried it again in a keepsake box.
I love you so much, okay?
Okay.
Making Dad the one who just can't let go.
Good night, sweet pea.
Steve Hartman, on the road, near St. Louis.
Now to CBS's Steve Hartman, who goes on the road where love is measured by the cup.
A lot of kids in America want to run a lemonade stand, but not many feel like they have to. 8-year-old Emery Johnson started her business after a terrible, nightmare morning.
I woke up with the worst news of my life.
As we first reported a few months ago, Emery's mother, Carly, died unexpectedly at the age of 29. She was a single mom, and Emery's everything.
We go see Mommy?
Which is why she couldn't understand, first time she went to the cemetery with her grandmother Jennifer, why everyone else got giant granite headstones, but her mom, just this tiny metal one. Did that bother you? Why?
Because it felt like she was being left out.
Her grandma tried to explain how they couldn't afford a headstone right now.
She had tears in her eyes and wanted to help.
So she did the only thing that she could think of to raise money.
Yes.
I made a lemonade stand.
A lemonade stand to pay for her mother's headstone. At first, she didn't make mention of her cause.
Thank you.
But word got out.
Thank you.
And before long,
Thank you.
Emery says it seemed like just about everyone here in Scottsboro, Alabama was thirsty for lemonade. The price was $1. But she says people liked it so much,
How many cups do you want?
they often paid more.
Thank you. The most that we got for one cup of lemonade was $300.
For lemonade?
Yeah, for one cup.
Whoa! After we first told this story, a local monument company installed a headstone for free. So the money she raised, more than $17,000, can now all go into savings for when she's older. But more importantly, Emery has taken that lemon life handed her and squeezed out hope.
Her comment was when all these people came, she couldn't believe so many people cared for her and loved her mommy.
They always say it takes a village to raise a child, but sometimes it also takes a village to mourn a mom. Folks around here take that role seriously, offering Emery comfort by the cupful and all the love she can drink.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Steve Hartman, on the road, in Scottsboro, Alabama.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for a story about a Minnesota bus driver who gave one person a lift and the rest of us hope.
Nothing gets past Minneapolis bus driver Jane Arndt Verhelst. Tire pressure, seats clean, all systems go. But recently, Jane noticed a problem outside her bus. It was about a month ago. She was approaching this intersection when she saw a woman standing in the middle of the road.
And then when I opened up the door, that's when I really saw her. I saw her from head to toe, and I was just like, wow.
The woman, who appeared to be homeless, wasn't wearing any shoes.
I can't imagine what it's like walking around in bare feet on the hot pavement, and just nobody sees you. She's just kind of invisible, you know?
but not to Jane, who immediately took the shoes off her own feet.
Here's one, here's another.
And gave them to her.
No, she's getting my shoes. Oh, okay.
I knew that you're not supposed to drive in your socks. It's a big no-no. But I couldn't help it.
Come on in, you guys.
Several riders witnessed that moment, but perhaps no one was more touched by it than this woman. Sarah Selden had been homeless before. She knows how meaningful a simple kindness can be.
It really affected me because it was oh my gosh, she sees this woman.
We're often told to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. But in certain moments, it's almost more important to let that someone stand in ours. Steve Hartman, on the road in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for a remarkable journey of friendship forged by tragedy.
Thank you, Lord.
In a small apartment building in North Minneapolis, a 59-year-old teacher's aide sings praise to God for no seemingly apparent reason. Indeed, if anyone was to have issues with the Lord, it would be Mary Johnson.
For all you've done for me. He never had a chance.
As we first reported in 2011, Mary's son, Laramian, was murdered during an argument at a party. He was 20 and Mary's only child.
My son was gone.
The killer was a 16-year-old kid named O'Shea Israel.
I wanted justice. He was an animal. He deserved to be caged.
And he was. Tried as an adult and sentenced to 25.5 years, O'Shea served 17 before moving back into the old neighborhood, close to Mary. This close.
He lives next door.
Next door.
How a convicted murderer ended up living a door jam away from his victim's mother is a story not of horrible misfortune, as you might expect, but of remarkable mercy.
What'd she say to you?
I believe the first thing she said was, look, you don't know me, I don't know you, let's just start with right now. And I was befuddled myself.
That was when he was still in prison. Once released, they met regularly, until one day Mary introduced O'Shea to her landlord and invited him to move next door.
Unforgiveness is like cancer. It will eat you from the inside out. It's not about that other person. Me forgiving him does not diminish what he's done. Yes, he murdered my son, but the forgiveness is for me. It's for me. Yes, Lord.
It's been 13 years since we first told this story. O'Shea and Mary stayed close. He walked her down the aisle when she got married, and sadly, was also a pallbearer at her funeral.
Yes, Lord.
This is like losing a biological mom. You know, it wasn't no difference with me and her.
Mary died earlier this year.
She had such a peaceful look on her face, though, as if, like, you know, her work is complete. She's done what she could here.
O'Shea says it's now up to the rest of us to follow her lead. Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
Finally, tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for a story about the power of music, one note at a time.
It was the wow that wowed the world. As we first reported in 2019, the Handel and Haydn Society was performing at Boston Symphony Hall. When, at the end of this one particularly beautiful piece, someone in the audience did something very unusual. Listen.
Did you hear that? Someone yelled, wow, and it resonated, not just in this hall, but throughout the classical music community. It was just such a departure from typical audience protocol, which is why the president of the Handel and Haydn Society was absolutely thrilled.
I was like, that's fantastic.
This is David Sneed.
And also there's a sense of wonder in that wow. I mean, you could really hear on the tape, he was like, this was amazing.
David was so smitten by the outburst, as was the audience, that he decided to try to find the voice responsible.
This reminds me a little bit of Cinderella. You're trying to find somebody who was at the ball, but you had no way of finding them.
So they didn't have email back then, huh?
You wrote to everybody in the audience.
Wrote to everybody in the audience.
Yeah.
And eventually, that email found its way to concert-goer Stephen Matten.
We did dash out like we were turning into pumpkins, so.
Stephen was there with his grandson Ronan, who was 9 at the time. Ronan is the one who shouted "wow," which surprised Stephen more than anyone.
Because he just doesn't do that. You know, usually he's in a world by himself. Ronan, what do you see?
Ronan is autistic and considered nonverbal. But clearly, music may be a wormhole into his heart and mind. Since we first told this story, Ronan's family has built a relationship with the orchestra, attending multiple concerts and private performances. There's also a new children's book out titled The Boy Who Said Wow. It tells the tale of the quiet kid born into a noisy world who doesn't speak much, but when he does, it's a real wow moment. Steve Hartman, on the road in Boston.
Finally here tonight, there are few things in life more important than good friends. CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for a friendship that brought a community together.
Every week, Andy Gullahorn goes for a walk. And every week, about 1.5 miles away, his friend Gabe Scott does the same thing at the same time. They walk toward each other, and when they meet, it's the weirdest thing. You see that? Clap, snap, high five. Then, often, they simply walk home. The whole exercise, their way of saying hi.
I've got a friend who literally will walk through the rain and the snow just to give me a high five, and I wish everybody could feel that feeling.
As we first reported in 2021, Andy and Gabe are musicians in Nashville. They met at a concert, got together on occasion, but not as often as they would have liked. So they invented this little bit of silliness as a way of guaranteeing they see each other at least once a week.
So this is the high five journal.
Andy has a log of every encounter, including the one that was nearly their last.
It was high five number 312.
Gabe was hospitalized with a severe form of encephalitis. It caused his brain to swell and robbed him of his past.
I pretty much forgot my life.
Your whole life?
Yeah.
And that's when his buddy Andy, now a virtual stranger, came to visit.
I said, well, Gabe, this is going to sound really weird, but I need you to do something for me. Give me a high five.
When the moment happened, my body just did what it's been doing for years. Clap, snap, high five.
It's been 3.5 years since we first told this story. Gabe's memory is much better, and the tradition still strong. In fact, the guys recently invited friends, fans, and family to celebrate 10 years of high fives. Yay! Another memory to cherish for a man who nearly forgot it all.
It's really special to have a memory of something. To have something that's this consistent in my life, that means this much.
Andy even wrote a song about their ritual.
So take a walk with me on Monday morning.
It's a reminder that going out of your way for someone is still the straightest path to an everlasting friendship.
Knowing the small things matter.
Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
Thank you very much.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for a story about sharing history and finding friends.
If you ever ask 98-year-old Janine Ober-Ottman how she stays so positive, especially after all she's been through, here's what she'll sing to you.
Whatever will be, will be.
Once a week, Janine brings her que sera mindset to this most somber setting, the Illinois Holocaust Museum in Skokie, Illinois. Her attitude made possible in part by her partner at the museum information booth, a 14-year-old boy named Dylan Stanley.
So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Happy
When you saw him today, you got a big smile on your face.
because I was so happy to see him.
She does that every week. It makes me very happy. Would you like to talk to Janine? She's a Holocaust survivor and she's willing to answer any of your questions.
Janine and Dylan met about 1.5 years ago. Janine had been volunteering here at the museum since it opened.
That's it.
Dylan had just started volunteering to learn more about the Holocaust. And when they sat together at that table, it was love at first listen.
It's amazing to hear from someone who's witnessed it firsthand.
He's kind enough to bear with me.
It's not bearing with you. It's fascinating to learn about your stories, and we need to learn about your stories in order to prevent them from happening again.
Of course, at this point, Dylan has heard her stories 100 times about life in the Jewish ghettos in occupied Poland,
People were thrown out on the street
and then taken to Germany by the Nazis.
to forced labor.
And yet, he's always willing to listen once more.
Janine, do you want to tell me your story again?
How come you don't tell her, I've already heard your story once?
Because she finds it comforting to tell people her story.
For Dylan, what started out as curiosity has evolved into compassion, ensuring that for these two, whatever will be together.
Que sera, sera.
Steve Hartman, on the road
Que sera, sera.
in Skokie, Illinois.
C'est fini.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to Michigan to meet a group of buddies who more than embraced a wild animal that's usually considered a pest.
You've no doubt seen many animal rescues, from barn fires to flash floods, critters cut loose and airlifted. But until you've seen this story, you have not seen it all.
Yeah, it was surreal.
It's an unbelievable thing to see. You know, if we didn't catch that on camera, no one would have ever believed it.
Our drama unfolds at a backyard cookout in Burton, Michigan, where friends Tyler Whalen, John Pazinski, and Bill Messenger were just wrapping up their weekly cookout when a raccoon appeared.
The raccoon had just stolen an American single, much like this one, a harmless caper, until it became clear to everyone that this raccoon had bitten off way more than it could chew.
We're looking at it, we noticed it was choking.
Pointing at its neck like the universal sign for choking, it was like this.
Right after that's when Bill just sprung into action and started hitting its back.
And now
He is choking though.
you've seen it all.
A little bit lower, Bill.
I could not believe a wild raccoon was letting him hit it in the back that hard. I was like, oh my God.
Was leaning back into it like, help me out, brother.
I think it knew that he was trying to help it.
And help it, he did.
There you go. There it is. Let's go. You're not going to down there one.
Watch again in slow motion and you can see, right there, out came the cheese.
Oh my God.
For the obligatory don't try this at home warning, we reached out to an animal behavior expert, Professor Suzanne McDonald from York University in Toronto. She is a wealth of information.
I've seen it all. I've been bitten by it all. I've been pooped on by it all.
Perhaps too much information, but to the point.
Don't do that. Don't be slapping raccoons or any other animal on the back. But it wasn't like he was giving them mouth to mouth or anything.
And she says a choking animal can't bite you. Regardless, the guys believe they had no choice.
Who would have thought?
We all thought it was gonna die.
Oh yeah, we were pumped for that little dude.
He was one of us at that point, so we...
Sounds like that raccoon wasn't the only one.
And I'm proud to call these guys my friends.
All choked up. Steve Hartman, on the road.
Good moment.
In Burton, Michigan.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a young family that found happiness off the beaten path.
If you take a ferry to Isle La Ho, an island community way off the coast of Maine, you can visit the gift shop, the general store, and, well, that's it. Just the general store and the gift shop. There are literally no other businesses on the island.
So people who live out here are resilient, they're creative,
And they're few. Too few, according to Bob Olney, president of the Isle Ho Community Development Corporation.
And it's essential that we continue to attract families.
So, last year, this community of about 50 year-round residents made a post, hoping to woo a new family. They were careful not to oversell the place. Though it's not everyone's cup of tea, who knows? It may very well be yours. And they got a taker. A young family from central Massachusetts.
Ready?
Dakota Waters, his son Flynn, wife Hannah, and their baby Amelia moved here a few months ago.
Oh, our whole family thought we were psychotic. They're like a remote island in the middle of the ocean.
Had you been on an island before?
Nope, never even been in the ocean.
And yet, here they live, the newest members of a dying breed.
Uh-oh. At one point, there were about 300 communities out here on Maine's most isolated islands. Now, just over a dozen remain. And keeping those alive will require a new breed of frontiersmen, folks who value solitude over Starbucks and really don't mind a little adversity.
People have traded the good life for a convenient one, and convenience isn't always the best.
To that point, the Waters raise some of their own food and work multiple jobs.
You want to pet your chickens?
Dakota does plumbing, lawn maintenance. The old landlubber even works on a lobster boat. And as for the children, this year his son Flynn was one of just 2 kids in the K-8 schoolhouse. And that was the other.
That's no one.
The place is just that small. But Dakota says the tininess is more blessing than curse.
There we go!
We have so much more bonding time with the kids. It's undescribably wholesome.
You think you're here for good?
Yeah.
I'm not moving my stuff off this rock again. It was too hard to get it here.
Come for the beauty, stay because it's too hard to leave. Could be another soft sell ad. Steve Hartman, way off the road on Isle Ho, Maine.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to visit a Texas home that was once destroyed by hate, but rebuilt with love.
Good grief.
At the age of 97,
Good morning.
just stepping out of a 4x4 is a major accomplishment. But Opal Lee has taken much greater strides than this, with no plans to sit anytime soon.
Where do we go from here? We don't have to sit around and wait for the Lord to come for us. In fact, he's going to have to catch me.
As we first reported a few months ago, Opal is a retired teacher and lifelong community activist in Fort Worth, Texas. She's mostly known for her successful campaign to make Juneteenth a national holiday. But what is lesser known is how that fire in her belly came to be. Back in 1939, when Opal was 12, her family moved into a house that stood right here in an all-white neighborhood. They'd lived here just 5 days when a mob showed up.
What did the mob do to your house?
They tore it asunder. They set stuff on fire. They did despicable things.
The family moved away and moved on. They just wanted to forget the horror. Until 8 decades later, when Opal Lee decided the time had come to remember it. So she looked up the address, found out the lot was still vacant and owned by the local chapter of Habitat for Humanity.
CEO Gage Yeager took Opal's call. He listened to her story, but then told her she could not buy that property.
Said, well, we won't sell it to you, Opal, but we'll give it to you. There's no option for anything else.
What'd you think when you heard that?
When I get happy, I want to do a holy dance, but the kids say I'm twerking, so I don't ever do it.
And she still hadn't heard the best news.
How are you?
Real good, real good.
Gage also offered to work with donors to put a house on her land for free. And today, he delivered. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1 happy homeowner.
This is wonderful, wonderful.
Long ago, a group of thugs robbed Opal's family of the American dream. And 85 years later, another mob has restored it. Now, all Opal wants is time to enjoy the gift.
I want you to know that I've got a God who has been so good to me. I think if I ask, he'd let me have a couple of more years.
A most worthy prayer. Steve Hartman, on the road in Fort Worth.
Legendary football coach Vince Lombardi is often credited with the phrase, "Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing." CBS's Steve Hartman found a sports team that lives by a different standard on the road.
Get your gear right. This team is getting ready for some exercise in futility. For try as they might, the Detroit Mechanics will almost certainly lose to the Madison Radicals.
Detroit, come on, boys!
The game is ultimate frisbee. The goal? To pass a disc down the field to score points. But you don't need to know how to play this sport to feel for this Mechanics team. Over the last 7 years, they have lost every single game. The longest losing streak in professional sports history, 77 straight, shattering the old record of 29 set in the 1940s by the Chicago Cardinals football team.
Yeah, there's not a lot of respect you get from playing for the Mechanics.
We're definitely the butt of a lot of jokes. Come on out, watch the team lose. Why are they still around?
They're still around because team owner Brent Steep refuses to give up.
White.
Brent is also the head coach.
There you go.
Have you ever thought of firing yourself?
Yes, multiple times, and I wish I could. Nobody wants to step up and do this job.
So,
we're on our way to Madison.
Every weekend, May through July, Brent and his players, who all have other jobs, carpool across the country to lose at the hands of someone new.
But as badly as the Mechanics want this streak to end, over the years they've also come to a pretty profound realization that for every loss, there's a gain.
Yeah, you get a lot more patience.
Teaches you a lot of resiliency. Losing is just another opportunity to grow.
The growth continued at this game last weekend.
Detroit will extend their losing streak to 78 games.
But that's when we saw something remarkable. A celebration. This is what happens when you measure success not by winning, but by improving. The Mechanics scored more points than any other game all season, and they were thrilled just to be one step closer to the victory that they know awaits.
It'll be so nice. Tears will definitely come out.
I think it's going to be wild, and I think I'm going to find out.
Isn't that the greatest thing we can do is give people something that they can look back fondly on and say, I did that. They're going to be unstoppable.
Really that simple.
Perhaps.
I love where we are.
But for now, they're okay. Just being stoppable.
Lead them to the promised land, baby.
Steve Hartman, on the road in Madison, Wisconsin.
Mechanics on 3. 1, 2, 3. Mechanics!
Finally tonight, one man's long military career and a special hometown effort to honor him. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
So as we gather here on this Memorial Day,
at a ceremony in Poolesville, Maryland, American Legion Post 247 paid special tribute to one of its own.
He was a Marine. He was most proud of being a Marine.
The vet they're honoring is Gunnery Sergeant Richard Remp. Remp, who everyone called Gunny, quit high school to serve in World War II and stayed all the way through Vietnam.
Here's all his ribbons.
Friends Julian Singh and James Capicilli say he was highly decorated.
That's right.
And all those accomplishments, and there was still one thing left undone.
Yes.
High school diploma.
That was his sort of farewell wish.
Fortunately, Pennsylvania law allows for any honorably discharged veteran of World War II, Korea, or Vietnam to receive an honorary high school diploma. Unfortunately, it takes time, and Gunny had just days to live. Nevertheless, his friends, in desperation, reached out to school officials here in his hometown of Sharon, Pennsylvania.
Hi.
Superintendent Justy Glaros took the call.
I have a lot of passion for the men and women that serve our country, and just everything inside of me said, yes, go, do it.
So she expedited the request and then went the extra mile, or more like the extra 550 miles, driving nearly 5 hours each way to hand deliver his diploma.
It was overwhelming. And I knew that he had been weak, but in that moment, he wasn't. Like, he was all in.
Gunny died 2 days later. He was 98.
The last thing he really remembered was getting that high school diploma from Justy.
This may be the most memorable graduation story of the season, but it is also not entirely unique. This weekend and in the days ahead, about 4 million people will graduate high school, and behind each diploma, you'll find at least one educator who made the moment possible. Steve Hartman, on the road in Poolesville, Maryland.
Finally here tonight, as Americans kick off the unofficial start of summer, CBS's Steve Hartman proves it is never too late to revisit our inner child on the road.
It's a summer vacation tradition as old as overpacking. You load the kids in the car and head off down the road with a set plan for where you're going and when you'll get there. And that's when your children look out those darn windows. In back seats across the country this summer, they'll be begging, "Can we go there?" Or "How about there?" And although parents can obviously say no, you need to be aware your children may never forgive you. For example, when I was about 8 or 9, we were driving through Gatlinburg, Tennessee when I spotted Hillbilly Golf, a mini golf course where you got to ride a funicular to the first hole. My parents sped past, and I never forgot. So I reached out on Facebook, looking for other stories of other parents who never stopped at other places. And I got a lot of co-misery.
Dutch Wonderland. You knew you would have fun, but we just drove right past it.
It's called the Crater of Diamonds, and I could never understand why my dad would not let us dig for diamonds.
Dinosaur World? It was a giant dinosaur. How could you not stop for the giant dinosaur?
Some live a lifetime and never see beyond the glossy brochure of their wishful thinking. But not me. I recently returned to Gatlinburg and got a surprise my younger self could have never imagined.
This is worth the wait.
Turns out Hillbilly Golf is still in business.
It's just like I remember it too.
So finally, I rode up and saw for the first time the course of my dreams, built right into the side of a mountain. And even though I'm not a great putter, not by a short shot, I can tell you after 18 holes of excitement and excuses,
Well, that's a maintenance issue.
I sincerely believe my parents did me a favor.
The mayor.
Delayed gratification beats instant every time.
That's great.
And saying no helps kids grow. Which is why, when I got home and showed my kids pictures from the trip,
Will you take us to Hillbilly Golf?
I decided to give them something to look forward to.
No.
In 50 years. Steve Hartman, on the road in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Finally here tonight, when it comes to giving back, money is important, but caring is priceless. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
We return this week to Toledo, Ohio, to Scott High School, to see what became of all those seniors who walked into this gym 4 years ago and got the surprise of a lifetime.
If you're sitting here in this room today, tuition, room and board, books and fees will be paid for you, and you will go to college for free.
Philanthropist Pete Cadence started this charity called Hope Toledo for kids like Chris Rowland. Chris told me he could have never afforded college, especially after his mom, Abina, lost her job and his dad died in a house fire.
My dad was the closest person I had in my life.
He was such an awesome father. He's still going to make him proud. I know he is.
4 years later, the first kids are graduating, but only about half will end up with a degree, which means for every joyous celebration, there is a dream deferred. Like that of Chris Rowland.
It's a lot that I've been through.
Shortly after starting college, Chris's brother, Javon, was murdered.
But yeah, still dealing with it.
How did it affect your school?
My grades took a dwindle. They went completely downhill.
To the point where Chris quit school, struggled to hold a job, and got in with the wrong crowd. He gave up on Hope Toledo, but not all hope was lost.
Because from that first day in the gym to now, Pete Cadence has stayed in Chris's life. Through all the missteps and blown opportunities, Pete has been there, mentoring, lecturing, feeding, and fathering.
What do we need to do to help you?
And because of Pete's ever-presence, today Chris Rowland is back on track, finishing his freshman year here at Lourdes University in Sylvania, Ohio.
You know what I realized along this journey, Steve, is that if all we do is give them money, they're not going to make it. You have to look at all the different things that create a successful student and a successful person, despite your struggles.
Most importantly, commitment, long-term commitment.
Pete has always constantly been there. When I gave him plenty of reasons to stop believing me, he stayed and he's still sticking it out with me. So Pete he's something special. It's hard to put in words.
I think he just did. Steve Hartman on the road in Toledo, Ohio.
Tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to witness the miracle of a mother's love.
For Peggy Means of WWII, Michigan, Mother's Day was just another X on the calendar, just another day without her daughter. In 2017, Jennifer was critically injured in a car crash. She was 35.
On life support?
Yeah.
And did the doctor tell you she wasn't going to make it?
He said that she's not going to wake up, and of course I collapsed, it was terrible.
Her only daughter in a coma with virtually no chance of ever coming out of it. And yet, Peggy refused to let doctors pull the plug.
Did you question your decision at any point?
No.
Not after year 1?
No.
Year 2, 3, 4, 5?
Never. I just couldn't let her go.
Yeah. One by one, Jennifer's friends stopped visiting. Even her husband moved on with his life. And yet, almost every day, her mom was there to comfort and care, and always talking to her, as if Jennifer could actually understand, which of course she couldn't. Until she could. It started with a laugh. Jennifer had been off life support, but still in a coma, when her mom said something funny. And that was it.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
A year later, Jennifer came home. Although she still can't walk and struggles to speak, her mind is sharp and her heart filled with joy.
What's the best part about being back among us? Everything?
Yeah.
She especially loves visiting with her boys. And as for Peggy, the mom who made these moments possible, this Mother's Day may be her best one ever. Because even though she won't be getting flowers or candy, Jennifer can now muster those words that matter most and deliver them as sincerely as they've ever been spoken.
You love your mom.
Yeah.
Steve Hartman on the road in WWII, Michigan.
It's amazing how far a single dollar will go when it's given out of kindness. Here's Steve Hartman on the road.
Inside Buckfeather, an outdoor sporting store in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we met a great American success story.
Because it's about you.
At 42, owner Matt Busbus and his partners have built and sold several outdoor companies worth hundreds of millions. But Matt says he's never felt richer than he did the day he got the dollar.
I haven't had that much faith in humanity in a very long time.
He says it all began about a month ago.
It was early morning, and the fire alarm was going off inside his condo complex. So Matt shot out of bed and raced down the stairs, only to discover there was no fire. But he's awake now. So even though he was wearing mismatched clothes and all disheveled, Matt decided to go out for a cup of coffee.
And as he was about to enter the shop, he remembered he hadn't done his morning prayer. So, as the security camera shows, Matt stepped to the corner of the patio.
And I start to slowly open my eyes, and there's a kid coming at me about my height.
And with his fist clenched. So Matt prepared for battle.
And he goes, and reveals a dollar bill. And I go, what?
If you're homeless, here's $1.
This is 9-year-old Kelvin Ellis Jr.
I always wanted to help a homeless person, and I finally had the opportunity.
Kelvin says he had just gotten the $1 for good grades. It was the only money he had to his name. Matt was so touched. He invited Kelvin in for a snack, connected with the boy's father, who was next door, and promised to stay in touch.
What's up, dude?
As a reward for his kindness, Matt gave Kelvin a shopping spree. 40 seconds to pick out whatever he wanted in the store, including a new bike. Kelvin says it was great, but definitely not what he wanted to get for his $1.
What were you hoping would come from that?
Joy.
Joy?
Because I helped someone. Give something away, you feel like you got a lot of things from it.
If you give, you're actually going to get more out of that. I couldn't grasp that as a kid. And if we can spread that around, everything changes.
$1. So well spent.
Cheers to friends forever.
Steve Hartman, on the road.
Amen.
In Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with 2 police officers and their incredible connection beyond the badge.
Retired South Bend, Indiana Police Lieutenant Gene Eister says he can't drive past this apartment complex without reliving that day.
That was one of the strangest calls I think I've ever had. We have a found baby in a box. Yeah, you always wonder, what happened.
A newborn abandoned in a common hallway. It was 24 years ago, just before Christmas. And for Gene, the case of that baby boy Doe, swaddled in cardboard and blankets, didn't end after the child got to the hospital.
No, I went back with a teddy bear. Just a symbol. Let everyone that walked past know that he was cared about.
And you never forgot?
Nope. None of it.
For more than 2 decades, he wondered what became of this boy. Unfortunately, records were sealed, so there was no way to find out.
Until a few weeks ago, when Gene got a phone call from a fellow officer. Guy said, remember that case, the baby left in the cardboard box? Well, you're not going to believe this.
And I thought, well, what? And he says, he's sitting next to me. I said, he's what? He's my rookie.
Meet Officer Matthew Hegedus Stewart. After his rescue, Matt was placed for adoption. He always knew he'd been left in a box, but only connected the dots to Gene after joining the department. Today, he wears the same uniform Gene did and patrols the exact same neighborhood.
Full circle moment. That hit home. I can only imagine from his point of view.
What it means?
Yeah.
He really can't imagine.
How you been? Good, how are you?
Because what to Matt may feel like coincidence, to Gene feels divined. Their reunion, this new friendship, it's all happening just a few months after Gene's only son, Nick, died unexpectedly at the age of 36.
So the timing couldn't have been any better to help fill a void that I've had to deal with.
24 years ago, Gene was called to be there for a child in need. Now, the child is set to return the favor. And whether it's a coincidence or not, the result is undeniably great police work. Steve Hartman, on the road in South Bend, Indiana.
This week's total solar eclipse brought millions of Americans together for a moment of inspiration and awe. That includes CBS's Steve Hartman and his family on the road.
Like many families, we went to a lot of trouble this week, driving 5 hours for a 4-minute vacation.
Because it's not just 4 minutes. It's something that you can look back on in your old age and say, I was there.
This is my oldest son, George. He's been into astrophysics since kindergarten.
By a strange coincidence, the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but 400 times closer to the Earth. Where's the sun now?
He begged to go to the last eclipse in 2017 and wanted to go again this year. So we traveled to Top of the World Drive in Vermont's Northern Kingdom, crashed a party there, and set up for an encore performance by the world's biggest star.
All right, greatest show on Earth. Except it's not on Earth.
Only difference, last eclipse, George was an engaging 9-year-old who thought his father hung the moon. And this time, he's a teenager.
What do you think of George? Do I have to think in a normal sense in such moments of pure beauty?
Okay. So, while George sulked up the sun, the rest of us cheerfully waited for our window.
Yeah, it's in the bottom right corner.
At this point, the shadow had already passed through most of the country, and we talked about that. How it traveled through red states and blue.
I see it move.
How it fell on faces of all colors, stirred souls of all creeds. And how by the time it reached us, more than 30 million Americans,
Oh my God!
who just moments before seemed so different, would all fall under the same exact wonder.
Like, the country comes together and we all find it amazing.
And look around us, look at all the similarities.
A moment that kind of unites us all was pretty cool to see.
We decided that unity was almost as inspiring as the event itself. Of course, within seconds, the heavens returned us to our own devices. But our wish at the end of this wondrous week is that a ray of that harmony remains. Which leads me now to this.
Are you glad you got to have this time with your family? I think maybe the answer to that is yes.
A glimmer of hope.
But also maybe no.
Quickly eclipsed by snark. Guess when it comes to throwing shade, not even the moon can trump a teenager. Steve Hartman, on the road in Newport, Vermont.
CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for an out-of-this-world experience, and he's bringing his teenage son along for the ride.
You go get it. For the last 6 years, 7 months, and 15 days, my oldest son George has been patiently waiting and hoping for the clouds to clear and the sun to shine for his second chance at a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
It's like when you see a good movie and you go and see it again. One time just isn't enough to capture the true majesty of it.
I think it started.
I think so.
Back in 2017, George convinced me to take him to the last solar eclipse. At the time, he was so into astronomy, he took his planet book to swimming lessons, dressed up as the solar system for Halloween, and made his 3rd grade New Year's resolution to get a shrewd idea of how the multiverse could be real.
It's basically a theory about having not one, but an infinite number of universes.
And you'd like to understand it better?
Yeah, which I already have done.
Would you explain it to me someday?
I will.
George was 9 back then. Today, he's 16. He rarely reads about astrophysics anymore, but his desire to witness the moon's day in the sun
Where's the sun now?
has not waned.
It's almost like some great higher power pushed down on a dimmer switch on the universe. It does not seem like a natural occurrence, and yet it is.
I have to agree. It does feel like another planet. But for parents like me, the more awesome sight is the joy on the faces of our precious Earthlings.
Oh my God, it's so dark.
Assuming no clouds.
Is that devastation?
Of course it is. I mean, it's an eclipse, but so much of life is learning to cope with that devastation and find beauty where you might have trouble finding it.
And that would be spending special time with your family.
I'm not going to dignify that with a response.
A teenager agreeing with his parents in totality.
Look up there!
Perhaps the only thing rarer than a solar eclipse. Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
Oh.
CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a story about how old friends and an old car gave one man a new lease on life.
If there's anything even remotely good about having ALS, 56-year-old Craig Reagan of College Station, Texas, says it may be a heightened sense of gratitude. Gratitude for caregivers like his wife Nancy, friends like his dog Taco, and memories like his '73 Ford Mustang, which, as we first reported last year, stopped running in 1999 and took up permanent residence at his house.
It's a big paperweight.
Big paperweight. Why did you keep it?
I just had such an attachment to it.
He's had it since high school.
He was proud of it.
Craig had hoped that someday his boys might want to fix it up with him, but they showed no interest in cars. Then he planned to do it himself, but ALS had other plans. So the car sat rotting until some old high school friends caught wind.
And everybody, as soon as I called these guys, they were like, yeah, let's do it.
It's in your heart. You just got to help somebody like that.
Okay.
So, for the next year, they went to work, put in hundreds of hours, while other classmates paid for parts.
1,
making this moment possible.
3!
It was just almost like a piece of him
That came back to life?
that came back to life.
Okay.
I'm ready when you are.
Craig was diagnosed with ALS in 2016. The disease is incurable, but he has clearly found his treatment.
What's it like to be back in it?
I feel like I'm a teenager.
After we first told this story, old friends and relatives started showing up to visit with Craig and take a turn behind the wheel. They have spent miles reconnecting. Turns out, those guys rebuilt a lot more than a Mustang. They crafted a life lesson.
He reminded us of something maybe we forgot.
Yeah, just do good stuff for people. That's all that matters. Just do good stuff today.
Do good stuff today. No better medicine on earth. Steve Hartman, on the road in College Station, Texas.
CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to an elementary school in Maine where the biggest trend isn't on the students' phones, it's in their closets.
Most 8-year-old boys don't get dressed to the nines. To them, suits are for bathing, and formal is a 4-letter word. But James Ramage of Chelsea, Maine loves to dress for 3rd grade success. He started a couple years ago, and at first, the other kids didn't know what to think.
Every time I saw him, I was just like, okay. And I'm like, why is he dressing up?
James knew he stood out.
Did you just decide one day, I don't care what other people are wearing?
I don't need to look like them anymore. I can be who I want to be.
In any school, a decision like that can go a few different ways. You can be accepted for who you are, ostracized for who you aren't, or, in very rare circumstances, you can become a trendsetter.
It just kind of started. Then more people started to do it. Because it looked fun, and now people absolutely love it.
Today, once a week, Chelsea Elementary kids put on their finest for Dapper Wednesday. It's not a dress code. It's not because some adult said so. It's because the children chose so.
Nice dresses.
Teacher Dean Paquette was an early adopter and now an avid advocate.
Stop, look at this. You look awesome.
Being dressed up, kids are different.
It is.
I think it's a self-esteem thing, and then it carries with them all the way through the day.
All right.
The kids agree. Told me they love how it feels.
I'm a little itchy, but it's fine.
Figuratively speaking.
It feels like I'm not a kid anymore. It made me feel like I was ready for the day. It feels like I'm like a president.
When James started all this, he had no idea the impact.
What's it like to be a trendsetter?
It just feels so nice.
But he doesn't think every kid should wear suits. Just whatever suits them.
Just wear what they want to wear.
Self-confidence. Always a good look. Steve Hartman, on the road in Chelsea, Maine.
CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to a small southern town where the simple act of giving someone a lift became a ride-sharing service for the soul.
In Cabot, Arkansas, just as the sun begins to set over the local Walmart, store janitor Bill Majalewski begins walking to work for his overnight shift. He will trek 5 miles, 2 hours, in any weather.
Pouring rain, you're walking 2 hours each way.
Yeah, I don't call out. I want to work.
He's going to go to work no matter what.
Snow?
Snow, I picked him up at 9 degrees the other morning. Let's go.
A couple years ago, Christy Conrad saw Bill out walking and offered him a ride. She got to know him, learned about his daunting daily commute and how he's also legally blind. So she began driving him whenever she could. At least, that's how it started.
Why did you feel the need to do more?
I can't be always there, you know?
So what was your plan?
Mr. Bill's Village.
Mr. Bill's Village is a Facebook group Christy started a couple months ago. She was hoping to find just a few volunteers to keep an eye out for Bill when he's walking.
And within days, it exploded.
It caught on really quick. And now it's like everyone's competing to give Mr. Bill a ride. They'll click and see, is Mr. Bill out walking? Is he headed to town?
So people are just driving around the streets looking for him?
Pretty much. Just like where's Waldo, but where's Mr. Bill? Yeah. It's nice to see.
Today, the group has 1,500 members. In fact, here comes one now.
Hey, Mr. Bill. Do you need a ride to Walmart?
Oh, certainly.
All right. Come on, hop on in.
You always get picked up now.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's always somebody different.
It's never the same person from one day to the next.
That's amazing.
There's a lot of good people in this world, all over the place, you know.
And on that note,
How are you?
here's one more good person.
I'm pretty good.
Chris Puckett is a car dealer. He wanted to give Bill a vehicle,
I wasn't aware that you couldn't drive.
but since Bill can't drive,
I'm legally blind.
I got you.
he handed the key to Christy instead, putting the car in karma.
I don't even know what to say. Bill, go get in that front seat. Go over there.
Doing unto others. It's how they roll here in Mr. Bill's Village.
Thank you.
Steve Hartman, on the road
Bye, babe.
in Cabot, Arkansas.
Tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a college basketball coach who gave a big assist to a young cancer patient.
You can't hear him over the crowd, and that may be a good thing, as Auburn University coach Bruce Pearl sneers and snarls his way through yet another basketball game.
You see him on the court being tough and stuff to all the players, but there's a whole totally different side of Bruce outside of basketball, which is a nice, loving, and caring person.
Auburn freshman Sam Cunningham's unique perspective comes from his greatest struggle. When he was 12, Sam was diagnosed with leukemia, and not long after, someone asked Coach Pearl to record a video for him.
You're gonna beat this, son. Cancer? Pick the wrong hombre. Pick the wrong dude to mess with, okay?
It was just real funny to me. Cancer picked the wrong hombre. It picked the wrong dude to mess with. That quote is what I kept with me when I got in my darkest days in the hospital and stuff.
Through all his complications,
You're gonna beat this, son.
through his relapse,
Pick the wrong hombre.
through the days that felt like they would be his last,
Pick the wrong dude to mess with,
Sam kept watching that video over and over.
okay?
Eventually, Coach Pearl delivered the same lines in person,
Pick the wrong dude.
and they became friends. And then one day, Bruce gave him another, even more inspiring message.
Tell you what, you're gonna get better. You're gonna come to Auburn, and you're gonna be my assistant. And he takes me at my word.
He believed it.
He did, and he is.
Today, he is the team manager, and so happy to be here. In fact, Sam says Coach Pearl's encouragement may have saved his life.
That truly healed me. I didn't think I would really get to this point from all the complications I had, so that was pretty amazing. I'm just a miracle to be here right now.
This month, college coaches across the country will be praying for a national championship. But here at Auburn, this coach will be asking for something far more consequential.
In my prayers, it's, God, don't let this thing relapse. Take me. Let Sam live.
Basketball seasons come and go, but great coaching lasts forever. Steve Hartman, on the road in Auburn, Alabama.
Finally, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a story about the power of forgiveness.
Nakia Cherry in the black and Stacy Green in the bright may look like besties from way back, but this is a bond born from bitterness.
I love you so much, Miss Stacy. I'm so sorry. Do a twirl.
4 years earlier, Stacy's mom, Rosie, was killed in a car crash. The other driver, Nakia Cherry, was doing 73 in a 45. Atlanta area police charged her with vehicular homicide, and Stacy was glad to see her suffer.
Yes, I was consumed.
By what?
Anger, sadness, loss.
I mean, Stacy was furious. Let's see.
Attorneys Jeb Butler and Tom Giannotti represented Stacy in the civil trial, and they made sure to keep the parties in the case apart.
I was worried that if they got together, the result would be incendiary. I was very pleasantly wrong.
Instead, last October, Stacy went up to Nakia in this courthouse. She thought of what her minister mother would say, and then told Nakia, "I forgive you."
And when I forgave her, it's like I was reborn again.
You make it sound like a miracle.
Nothing short.
It was an extraordinary step, but only the first step. From then to now, Stacy has gone so far beyond the words, "I forgive you," to the actions of, "I love you."
She's like a godmama to me. I talk to her every day.
Nakia lost everything after the crash. She now lives in a motel.
So I am committed to her life getting better.
Like how?
So I've helped her with money for food.
You've given her money?
Yes. Rent. I was her daughter's secret Santa. I booked a trip for her to go to Miami for her 40th birthday.
Her attorneys say they've never heard of anything like it.
She's remarkable, remarkable person.
And all that's great. That separates conversation from conviction.
Stacy didn't have to do that. I'm gonna cry.
Actually, Stacy says she did have to do all that, or she could have never forgiven herself.
We gotta make the best out of this situation.
Steve Hartman, on the road in Atlanta.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to say goodbye to a longtime co-worker and close friend.
I knew I was going to get a hug.
If you could look backward through the lens of the camera that captured the most memorable moments of my career,
No way.
you'd see the eye of photographer Bob Caccamis.
It's pretty.
But now, sad to say, Bob is retiring.
It's like Simon and Garfunkel breaking up, it's similar to that. Or it could be like Bonnie and Clyde breaking up.
Didn't they die?
Oh, they got shot. But they were going to break up.
His wit and dear friendship have made my work feel like anything but.
Go ahead, let me see this one.
We've been partnered for the better part of 30 years now. Traveled to every corner of the country, covered the strange and the somber, the hurry-ups and the waits. And to think it all began with a chance meeting at a company holiday party.
And he was sitting down by himself because nobody liked him. And I said to him, if you want a cameraman, I'm your man.
I was drawn to his humility. But working with him wasn't so much about like his raw talent as a cameraman, it was just fun.
But the raw talent definitely was there.
We've been told we're like an old married couple, and I know many of you can relate. In fact, this week we put out a call on Facebook asking to hear from other work spouses. Hundreds chimed in, and the relationships they described sounded an awful lot like real marriages.
It makes it a joy to come to work. Right.
You don't really have to explain certain things. They just know what you're thinking.
He's my mentor. He's my confidant.
Yeah, this is love. I mean, this is what love looks like.
Match made in heaven.
Bob and I couldn't agree more.
You used to tell me I love you like my dry cleaner.
I had a good dry cleaner. Well, now I love you more than my dry cleaner.
More than dry cleaner.
Okay, here's the story.
People have always told me I have the best job in America, and it's true, but not for the reason everyone assumes. Rather because every week I've had Bob by my side to share the experience.
So you're gonna miss me?
I'm gonna miss you a lot.
We started out as work friends and we became best friends.
And that part will never change. Steve Hartman, On the Road, with Bob Caccamis.
Finally tonight, what are the chances that CBS's Steve Hartman has a story about Super Sunday? The odds are looking pretty good. On the Road.
If this was the Super Bowl of news stories, I'd bet anything that people would bet on anything. From how many words I'll say, to whether I'll gesture more with my left hand or my right. And when I eventually throw this ball, will my dog catch it? These are called prop bets. And in football, it means betting on anything other than the final score of the game.
How big has this gotten?
It's gotten much, much bigger than even the game.
Rufus Peabody is a professional bettor and co-founder of Unabated Sports.
Why do you think the proliferation of this?
I think because people have shorter attention spans now than they used to. We want the game to be more like a slot machine than we do a sporting event.
To that end, you can now bet on how long the national anthem will be, whether or not someone will miss an extra point. Will Taylor Swift be caught on camera wearing a foam finger? Will she wear red lipstick or some other color? And my personal favorite, when the game ends, what shade of Gatorade will get dumped on the winning coach?
What color will the Gatorade bath be?
Grown men have actually been debating this all week.
Young people like blue Gatorade.
I'll go orange.
Orange has moved down to plus 500s.
And who stands to profit off all this, aside from the Gatorade delivery guy? The sports books. They're expecting 68 million Americans to gamble $23 billion on the Super Bowl this year. Industry insiders estimate about half that on these crazy side bets. And so, as we near the end of this 273-word news story, where I have gestured more with my left hand than my right, let me ask you one final question. How many of you have been waiting around just to see if my dog will catch this ball? It's the same drama within a drama that fuels this Super Bowl betting frenzy. The sweat, the adrenaline rush, no matter how ridiculous the reason. Want to go double or nothing?
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a man who found that the best tool in the toolbox is our heart.
After his retirement, and especially after his wife died, 76-year-old Danny Chauvin of Waveland, Mississippi, says he had way too much time on his hands.
If you're alone with just your thoughts, does your mind wander places?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That you don't want to go?
Yep. That's when stuff comes back to you.
Danny served in the Army in Vietnam. He's been treated for depression and PTSD. But to keep his sanity, he knew he also had to keep busy. But how?
And that's when Danny realized one of the things he missed most about his wife was all the little handyman jobs he used to do for her. So a few months ago, he posted a note on Facebook.
If there's any honeydew jobs that you can't handle, I'm willing to help.
And it spread like wildfire.
Thanks for coming help me out.
So now, every day,
no problem.
Sometimes 4 times a day, Danny fixes the hole in his heart by fixing just about everything else.
He's working on fixing a closet door.
And then he hung my porch swing. He put in a shower, and he did my screen door.
And the best part?
What does he charge for all this?
The price.
0.
Nothing. Charged us nothing. He showed much kindness to people.
We can fix that up.
Most of the people Danny helps are women, most single or widowed. They call him the honeydew dude and say he's just about the only guy they know willing to help with these small jobs. And obviously, no one's gonna match his price point. In fact, when the work is done, only thing he takes is a picture, a reminder that he is not alone in his struggle.
Right now, I got a lot of friends, a lot of friends.
Is the PTSD any better now that you've started doing this?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's what I was looking for.
Cross finding happiness off the honey-do list.
Voila.
Steve Hartman, on the road
Okey-doke.
in Waveland, Mississippi.
No problem.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to a small town filled with big hearts.
If there was ever an election in this country for kindest American, the people of Galveston, Indiana know who they'd nominate.
Because I think he's out there to help everybody.
That's what he's known for.
It's the cloth he's cut from.
Just a special guy, very special guy.
So who is this great humanitarian who lifts up the people of Galveston? The same man who puts them down. As we first reported last year, 90-year-old gravedigger Alan McCloskey has been at this job since 1952 and refuses to retire because he says a new gravedigger might not square the corners as precisely, might not care as deeply for all those loving souls.
Yeah. People that we went to school with and worked with.
What was your hardest one?
It was my wife.
How'd you get through that?
I figured she'd want me to do it.
Alan and Barbara had 3 kids, but his definition of family extends well beyond blood, which may explain why a good chunk of the town gathered for what Alan thought was someone else's birthday party, but was really a celebration of him. At the party, he got an official Guinness World Record for longest career as a gravedigger, 70 years and counting. But more importantly, he was recognized for the thousands of odd jobs he's done for people. It's his side hustle, but with a twist.
We'd ask Alan for a bill, and he wouldn't give us a bill.
He said, I'll just catch up with you later.
And then
later never came.
You never hear anything more about it.
It was the running joke at his party.
Anybody in here still waiting on him to send you a bill for work that he did? Yeah.
I did ask Alan about this.
They say they can't get a bill from you.
Oh.
But all I got was a hearty laugh. After we first told this story, the gravedigger got buried himself in fan mail. One writer called him an inspiration to humanity. Guinness also reached out, wanted his shovel for display. But by all accounts, the notoriety hasn't affected him one bit.
Alan has figured out what life is about. I truly believe Alan has figured out where enough is at. He's found enough.
And strange thing about finding enough, you often end up with more than enough. Steve Hartman, on the road, in Galveston, Indiana.
Finally tonight, the long week of cold weather has many of us wishing we were in a tropical paradise. CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a group of students who show us it's all in the imagination.
You may walk to recess.
At the Trinity Leadership School near Dallas, Sonia White's first graders were flying high
Come all the way back and walk.
because, as we first reported a few months ago, they had just taken an amazing field trip.
Where are you going?
Mexico.
To Mexico? I love your outfit.
It was my first time on a plane. We went inside a cloud. I saw the ocean.
Is that your first time seeing the ocean?
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you've got to be wondering, how could a school afford this? What kind of teacher does it take to fly a class of first graders to Mexico for a day? A very clever one. So just to be clear, you did not go to Mexico.
We did not.
You did not get on a plane.
We did not.
You never left the class.
We did not.
What you're about to see is a testament to the power of imagination and the magic teachers have to harness it.
Okay, let's find out.
After Sonia's students told her their one wish was to fly on a plane, She went full throttle on the pretend.
Boarding pass and your passport, please.
Created travel documents for each child, and then boarded them on their flight to Mexico.
Okay, guys, we are now at 13,000 feet. You may take out a snack.
We had a little turbulence. Boy, it did not scare me. But my friend Lorenzo had a rough landing.
Really? What happened to him?
He was like...
The buy-in really was remarkable.
One of my students saw somebody that night and they said, "What are you doing here? I thought you were in Mexico." And he said, "Yeah, we were. We got back at 3. And that's when I was like, they really think we went to Mexico.
After we first told that story, Southwest Airlines invited the class to its Dallas headquarters to step inside a real plane.
Welcome aboard.
Experience tray tables and safety cards, and begin to wonder where in the world their imaginations might take them next.
Did this fuel your desire for more travel?
Yes. Do you know North Korea?
Yeah, sure.
Probably I do not want to go there next.
I guess even pretend flights come with travel warnings.
Yes.
Steve Hartman, on the road, near Dallas.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a story that will put a song in your heart.
In downtown Boston, hope was fading for Ara Bolster. She'd been homeless for more than 2 years after a string of unfortunate events and abusive relationships.
I had been in tears, and I remember thinking to myself, you know, God, when is the tide going to turn?
And that's when this guy walks in your life?
Yeah.
Lean on me.
Ara says she'd been singing on the street, which she does on occasion, when a stranger came up to her. His name is Matt Shearer. He's a radio news reporter. Matt was out covering something else that day, but he sensed a better story in her.
Can I sit with you and chat?
Absolutely.
And that's when Ara told him about her most prized possession.
I have a song, and I wrote it here on the streets.
The lyrics were written on a piece of cardboard she'd been using as a mattress. The melody, only in her mind. But Ara felt so strongly about this song, she told Matt her only wish in life was to share it with the world. And when Matt heard that,
I thought, well, I've got connections. I know people.
And so, a few days later,
come with me. He said, hey, I have a surprise for you. Let's go. Here you go. Got her in the car, and I told her where we were headed, and she was so happy.
I'm taking you to a recording studio.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No.
I'm serious.
No.
Yep.
Matt found an engineer and a producer. And what they all heard.
Oh, I was blown away. The lyrics were powerful. How love can be both toxic and intoxicating.
Ara has now uploaded her song to the online music platform Bandcamp, netting nearly $5,000 in downloads.
Look at this.
But as much as she needs that money, she says Matt matters more.
He's everything to me right now that I don't have, and he's a hero.
Finding someone who believes in you.
We should try to get you singing the national anthem at the Sox game. What do you think?
The best way to feel like a rock star. Steve Hartman, on the road in Boston.